What's up guys, I'm Bradley and today I want to talk to you about setting your kids up for their financial future. Today I want to go over what an RESP is and how you can utilize it. RESP stands for Registered Education Savings Plan, and it's an account that you can set up to help save for your children's secondary education. So why is it so important to start saving now for your child's education down the road? Well, historically, the cost of tuitions has increased at a rate of almost double what inflation is. On top of that, right now, if you were to put your kid into a university for a 4-year degree, you'd be looking at almost $100,000. Now, of course, that does include housing. So if your child were to live at home, you could actually look at saving up to 50%. So before we get too far into this, if you're interested in starting an education savings plan for your child, and you want to be able to put some money aside to grow and invest for your child's education, you can actually use the link in the description to start a WealthSimple account where you can start a managed RESP. If you don't like the idea of paying a small fee for someone else to manage the RESP for you, you can actually use Questrade and set up the account yourself and manage all your investments on your own. Now, what are the advantages to an RESP? Now, you might think that an RESP is similar to an RRSP, where you would get tax deductions for putting money into the savings account. But unfortunately, that's not the case. But thankfully, RESPs do have some tax benefits as long as the money that's generated within the account is going towards your child's education. Now, when I mention dividends, I know this is a common question with dividend type investors. Unfortunately, if you're investing in US companies that do pay a dividend, your dividends are still subject to the 15% withholding tax. Now, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't invest in the US, but just be aware that there is that small tax being taken up front before you receive your dividend. So let's get into it. What is an RESP? What types of accounts can we set up with them? And what are the benefits to using it? Now, when you're setting up an RESP for your child, you can set up one of 3 different types of accounts. Those different accounts are individual, family, or group accounts. An individual account would just be for one child. A family account would be for multiple children of various ages. And a group account would actually be for multiple children around the same age. When you set up one of these accounts, you'll have to name a beneficiary. That's your child. This is going to be the person who's eligible to withdraw the funds and reap the benefits of the account. For the family plan, you can actually set up multiple beneficiaries, so your multiple children. And with the group plan, you can actually set up multiple beneficiaries, but they don't actually have to be related to one another. Now, the main reason you would use an RESP is that once you open the account, you are actually eligible for the Canada Education Savings Bond. Now, this is a government grant that essentially contributes towards your child's education in the future.
But how does that work?
Now, the government will actually match your contributions to the RESP per child at a rate of 20%. Now, what that means is if you put $500 into the account, you're going to be eligible for $100 of that government grant. And over the lifetime of the account, the government will actually match up to $7,200. Now, of course, this all works on a per child basis. So whether that be an individual account or a family plan, each child that you name as a beneficiary is eligible for the $7,200 of government grants, so long as you put in the proper amount. Now, it's important to note that the government will actually only provide this grant up until the year that your child turns 17. So whether they turn 17 in January or December, that year is going to be the last year that you can actually claim the Canada Education Savings Grant. So now that we've put money into this RESP, what are we supposed to do with it? Unfortunately, the name, Registered Education Savings Plan, is a little misleading. The RESP is actually a really great tool for you to invest in and grow your wealth within this account so that you can grow the amount of money that you have to put towards your child's education. Now, the contribution limit over the lifetime of the account is $50,000 per beneficiary. So again, individual account, max is $50,000. Family plan with 2 children would be $100,000. Even though the government will stop issuing that grant once your child turns 17, the RESPs can actually stay open for 36 years, and you can contribute to them for up to 31 years after they've originally been open. You might ask,
Why so long?
Well, this is to give your child the opportunity to make a decision whether or not they'd like to get their secondary education. They don't have to rush right out of high school, they can take their time, and the account can continue to grow in the meantime. So the best way to maximize these government grants and to get the most out of these RESPs is pretty simple to calculate. We just need to take that $500 max that they'll give you each year and divide that by 0.20, which is essentially figuring out what $500 is 20% of. And that'll actually get us to $2,500. So that means if you were to deposit $2,500 into your child's RESP, the government will give you that maximum of $500 as a government grant. So what if you missed a year? Well, fear not. The government will allow you to claim up to 1 year's worth of government grants on top of the current year. So what I mean is, if you missed a year, you can deposit your $2,500 and receive your $500 government grant for this year, and you can deposit another $2,500 and receive the $500 government grant from a prior missed year. And you can continue to do this for each year that you've missed, so long as you're only claiming one additional year each year. Now inevitably, we will need to withdraw the funds from the RESP to use towards our child's education. We can break down the balance of the account into a couple of different sections. The first section is our initial contribution. That's any amount of money that a subscriber has put into the account. A subscriber is the person who opens the account. This can be you or your spouse. The next section of money would be that amount that the government has given us through the Canada Education Savings Grant. Now this amount of money, when we withdraw it, needs to go towards education, and the government will actually require proof of tuition. This can be used for college or university, it doesn't matter, the government just needs proof that it'll be going towards the education. The third amount of money would be any interest or capital gains that we've earned on our investment throughout the course of the account. Now this is the most important section because this amount is also required to go towards education, but when we withdraw it, there is going to be some tax implications. Whatever that amount ends up being will be taxed at the beneficiary's marginal tax rate. Now they do this because it's expected that a student who's entering post-secondary education will fall into that lowest tax bracket. The government also requires that this money will be going towards the education of the beneficiary. Now you might be asking,
what happens if my child doesn't want to go to post-secondary education?
Well, thankfully, we have some options for how we can get the money out of the RESP. First, like I said before, any contributions that we've made into this account, we can withdraw tax-free. So if we put $50,000 in to max it out, we can take that $50,000 out and there will be no tax implications on it. Now thankfully, because the accounts can be open for 36 years, that gives our child the opportunity to think about the decision whether or not they want to go to secondary education and maybe put it off for a little bit. So it's important not to make any hasty decisions about taking the money out too soon. The next thing that we can do is actually transfer the funds to a sibling's RESP, or if you're on a family plan, but the second beneficiary can use all the funds that the first one didn't. If the primary beneficiary has decided to opt out of secondary education and we don't have any other siblings or beneficiaries to move the funds along to, we're unfortunately going to have to reimburse the government that $7,200 because the funds won't be used towards secondary education. But thankfully, any interest or capital appreciation that we've earned on the government contributions, we still get to keep. Another thing that you can do is transfer the funds from the RESP into one of the subscribers' RRSPs. This will trigger all the regular benefits of the RRSP. If you're not familiar with an RRSP and the benefits that it can give you as a Canadian investor, hit subscribe. I'm going to be coming out with a video in the future where we'll dig deep into the pros and cons of this type of investing account. So hit subscribe and stay tuned. Now finally, if we've exhausted all of our options, we aren't using the funds for education, we don't have any other beneficiaries, our RRSPs are maxed, so we can't move the money there. The last thing that we're going to have to do is withdraw the money. And like I said before, any government contributions are going to have to be returned to the government, but any dividends, income, capital appreciation that we've experienced throughout investing in this account, we're going to have to withdraw, and we're actually going to have to pay taxes on that at the subscriber's marginal tax rate. As well, we're going to have to pay a 20% fee on top of it. I hope this video has been beneficial for learning the true value of an RESP and what it can do to prepare you for your children's secondary education. If you're interested in learning more about RESPs, which I encourage you to do, I'm going to link below the CRA website where it breaks down all the details of the account, as well as an additional link where it goes over the frequently asked questions and anything that I might not have covered in this video. It's my personal belief on this channel that financial education is taught and learned and passed on through the generations. And part of financial education is the acknowledgement that debt is something that we want to avoid at all costs. If we can set our children up by saving and preparing for their future education, we save them the burden of future student loan debts and set them off on the right foot as they start their lives. By saving your children from the burden of debt in the future, we're essentially passing on generational wealth, which is a huge founding principle here on the channel. If you learned anything today about RESPs, I'd really appreciate it if you could smash that thumbs up. It means a lot, and it really helps me know that the type of content that I'm producing for you guys is beneficial. Feel free to hit subscribe, and as always, stay safe.
It's a time to rise up.